Hi everyone, welcome to day 2 of our Photoshop workshop. Today we're going to do a bit of photo manipulation and again walk through the process of creating our own typographic poster drawn from inspiration from the Language of Graphic Design book. So let's go ahead and jump in. Okay, today we are going to be drawing inspiration largely from this Edward Albee poster for Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf. I really like the typography in it. This use of a sans serif font is really fantastic. So the serifs are sort of those little feet that hang off of typefaces and letters. And this doesn't have it, so it's sans serif. It's without those little feet that are a part of each letter. So they chose a really great font for it. The balance is interesting. Good use of white space. And again, the image is dominant here, but is balanced well in the lower third with the typography. I'm also going to draw inspiration today from this photo manipulation that was done by Instagram artist who does a lot of these works where he will take photographs and blend them in really compelling and interesting ways. So I'm going to draw inspiration from that. So today, go ahead and jump into Photoshop. I'm going to be working on a Windows machine here, hopefully figuring it out. I'm a Mac user, but I thought it'd be great to go ahead and try to go through this along with you. So what you're going to do is download the workshop files. And I'm going to go ahead and jump over to those within my machine. So I'm going to go to my folder for DCC 105. I'm going to go to my workshops folder within Photoshop. So I've got a couple of images that I want you to open, one of which is called Desert Sand Rock, and the other one is called Skyscraper City Fog. Go ahead and open those up in Photoshop. And we're going to start by creating a similar photo manipulation. And this is going to be the central image that we're going to use in the poster. And we're going to pull it in and create a layout that's similar to the Edward Albee poster. Okay, let's start with the Desert Sand Rock photo. And what we're going to do here is to get rid of the sky and to create a transparent background that we can then pull the city into. So what we can do here, again, are kind of several options. You can choose your quick selection tool if you wanted to, and kind of drag it around and see how the selection works. That selects a little too much, so I'm going to go ahead and go Control D or Command D to undo that. Let's see how the select subject works here for this. And that does a great job selecting just that person. It's really fantastic, actually. But we're aiming for including this guy. So I'm going to go Control D or Command D if you're on a Mac. So let's try color range here. I'm going to pick the sky, and then I'm going to slide up the fuzziness until if you slide it all the way up, you can kind of see where the sand is. And what I'm doing here is sliding the fuzziness to the left until I don't see any lines selected in the sand. So maybe right around 72 or so. And I'm going to go ahead and accept. And then I'm going to go ahead and Control X or Command X to X that out. You know what? Actually, let me show you one other thing. Let me back up here. Command Z. I'm going to go ahead and go Select Inverse to select the photo. And then I'll go Control X, Command X to X that out. Now, if you go up to File New or Control New, Command New, it gives you the option of pasting this on a clipboard that is exactly the same dimensions of the photo that you just cut out. So I am going to also make that transparent background and create that, and then go ahead and go up to Edit, Paste. And now you can see all of these little squares represent the transparent part of this image. Okay, I'm going to go back to Desert Sand Rock. I'm done with it for now. I'm going to close it and not save it. And let's go to our skyscraper here. Now I want to flip this over. So I'm going to go up to image rotation, and I can do a 180 on it. That looks great. And then I'm going to go Control A or Command A. And then I'm going to go ahead and copy it. Control or Command C. And then go back to the new photo that I have. And we're going to paste this underneath. So we're going to need to move it after we paste it. Let's go ahead and paste it in. And then we're going to go over to our layers palette and drag it beneath. Okay, now we're going to transform it, free transform it. So that's Edit, Free Transform, or Control T. And then we're going to blow it up to the correct size. And then hit enter or accept. Now the canvas here doesn't actually fit with the dimensions that I'm looking for. So I'm going to go up to image and then canvas size. And I want it to go taller here. So what I'm going to do is click on the very bottom center arrow, and then it shows you that everything that you're going to do is moving up now. Anytime you're going to increase the size of the canvas, you're moving it upwards. And instead of pixels, I'm just going to do percent, and then I'll crop afterwards. I have no idea exactly how many pixels I need here, but I'm going to increase the height to move that up to 200% instead of 100. And then it's going to just move upwards. Width doesn't change at all. Click OK. And now I'm going to double click on the hand to see the whole thing. Okay, that's starting to look great. And I did definitely make the canvas too large. That's okay. I'm going to hit C for crop, and then go ahead and drag it down to the very edge of the image here. And actually, I might raise it up just a bit. I think I want to move the city just slightly upward. I'm going to hit enter and then hit V to choose the move tool. And then I'm going to go ahead and, oops, I was selecting the wrong layer. Select the city layer and just bump it up a bit. All right, that's starting to look good. Okay, what I want to do now is to create a bit more contrast, and I'm going to start with the city itself. I want to have it match the desert sand a little bit better. So I'm going to go up to Image Adjustments and choose Brightness and Contrast. I'm going to bump the contrast up a bit. Maybe also bump the brightness up just a bit as well. I want it to really have that stark city view. Okay, that's starting to look good. Now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to create a new canvas. So I'm going to go and do File, New. And I'm going to create a custom size, again, going back to that poster size that we are doing, which is going to be 16 by 22 with a resolution of 300 CMYK. I'm going to keep the background contents. Actually, yeah, I can leave them transparent or white. I'm going to go ahead and put in new things for this as well. I'm going to go ahead and create that and go back to this. I'm going to save this as a new file, a PSD file as well, under my day 2 files. City, and I'll call this City Desert, and it's a Photoshop file. Now I'm going to hold Control down to select both layers, and then I'm going to right click on it or Control click. And what I want to do here is to duplicate my layers over to the new untitled document. So now those have popped up here within that as my source image. And I'm gonna, what you can do at this point, if you want to work on these images together, you're happy with it, you're done with it, you can actually merge them if you want to. I can control click, or right click, or control click if you're on a PC, and I can choose merge layers. And now all of a sudden that has become a new single photo. So I'll just rename this as main photo. Now it's no longer editable here, but I have a different file for that. That's fine. So I'm going to go ahead and Control T or Command T to change the size of this. I'm going to drag it out roughly to a similar kind of dimension, and I'm using my arrow keys to kind of nudge things. That looks pretty good. Let's go back to my source photo that I'm drawing inspiration from. It has a little bit more space around it, so I'll just kind of create a little bit more space here on each side. Okay, that looks good. Okay, I'm done with the city desert for now. I'm done with the skyscraper. I don't need to save it. But I do need to save this. I'm not going to wait 50 minutes to go in to the workshop and save it again. So I'm going to go File, Save As. And again, you can do to cloud or to computer. And what I'm going to call this is shifting perspectives, and I'll call this workshop. And saving it as a PSD. I don't need to save it as a JPEG yet because I have a lot of work to do before I get to that point. One other thing that we're going to pull in here before we begin working on the typography of this is a textured paper background. So go ahead and open the file. So in my Photoshop's workshop, I have this textured paper file. Go ahead and open that up in Photoshop. And then I'm going to Control or Command A and then copy it. And then back to my workshops folder. And I'm going to go ahead and paste it in there. And then I'm going to drag this down to the very bottom just to create a bit of texture for this. You can go out and find lots of textures just to give it a sense of depth, a sense of materiality that's often missing from graphic design, where things feel flat, feel like they were absolutely designed on a computer. What we're doing here is just trying to give it a bit of material, tactile, a sense of tactility here, so it doesn't feel so flat. Okay, let's jump back to our source image here. And what I really like about this is just this really great font here, which is called a Gothic style font. And I want to know exactly what it is. So I'm going to jump over to the web and there's this website called fontsquirrel.com where I can actually upload this image. And now I'm going to go ahead and highlight just this Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf section here. And then I'll click this button that says Maturate It. And then you can kind of scroll down, fonts that match your image. We have a lot of great fonts here that could work, for example, like this font. And what I would normally do is jump over to fonts.adobe.com to see if that font is in there, and it is. And within this, I can go ahead and activate those fonts. And let me jump back over, which I've done, and then I can jump over to my workshop folder. And again, I'm going to choose T for the type tool, and then I'm going to tap. And what we're going to type here in all caps is the words design shifts your perspective. And again, this is one definition of design we can use. And I'm going to jump over here to see if maybe this particular font works well. And I'm going to just start by doing an auto line height, auto tracking for the letters here. Okay, that's a bit big. I'm going to pull this down. But the font, let me go ahead and get rid of that for the moment. The font looks similar, and I'm looking for those, especially the long thing. So that matches pretty well. So I'm going to go ahead and go with that for the time being. Another font that we could potentially use, let's see if I have this installed. I don't. Is over on DaFont, defontfree.net. There's a font called Junicode Regular, which I've installed already here. And when I click it on my PC, I can just click install. And then, oh, you know what? We're going to use this for a different thing. So sorry, that is not a Gothic style font. The other one is at the moment. Okay. Oh, it went to Courier New for some reason. Okay, that's great. So okay, I'm going to go ahead and adjust the line height a bit. And one thing you can do with the line height is my font is 115 points, so you want it something close to that. So I'm going to continue to bump this up to about 95. That looks good. And pull this over. And now I'm going to do another type. I'm going to type the number 10 because it is our 10-year anniversary in DCC. We have been a program for 10 years. I'm going to go ahead and bump this up very large. Line it up with the edge here and the top. Okay, I'm gonna follow the stylings of this, and then I can adjust it after I copy things for a bit. So this is what I recommend you do with your posters, is to emulate your inspiration posters closely. And as you're in process of doing this, you can go back and adjust things to fit your aesthetic a bit better. First, it's great to just learn how people do their things, similar to what Austin Kleon talks about with stealing like an artist. Stealing is a way of learning how people use their technique. And that's really what this assignment is getting you to do. It's not asking you to be entirely original. It's sort of unveiling that and say, learn from people who do it well. And that's how you're going to begin your own projects. So hew closely to your inspiration posters, figure out how they do what they're going to do. And that's what we're doing in these projects as well, is we're emulating them very closely to learn their technique. So right here, I'm going to go ahead and highlight the 10. I double clicked on this T in the layers, but actually all I'm interested in is the 0. So I'm going to click and then click and highlight, and I'm going to change the color to a green. And you can notice that I get a hex code down here, which means I can either use that same green in other kinds of projects once I'm happy with the color that I've chosen. So I can highlight this and paste it into other Adobe products, or give it to other people to say, here's the color green that I use in my project. And then I'm going to go ahead and double click on Design Shifts Your Perspective. And I'm going to highlight that, change the color, and I need that same green. So actually, if I hover over the 0 in 10 and just tap, it automatically will select that same green. Okay, finally, I'm going to, underneath this, type year anniversary. Okay, I need that to be black. Paragraph style, I'm going to go ahead and center this for now. And I'm going to move it underneath. And let's just start shrinking this down quite a bit. So what I'm going to start with is figuring out exactly what size I want the word year to be and where I want it to be. Okay, let me go ahead and just do auto line height on that. And now I'm going to go ahead and just select the word anniversary and start pulling that down in size as well. And I'll probably want that to be about as wide as the number 10 or close to it. And again, what I can do here is go up to View, Rulers, and pull out a ruler to the edge of the 1 there and the edge of the 0. And then I can go Control Spacebar to zoom in, or Spacebar Command for those on a PC. And actually, this is not quite aligned there. Okay. Let me just make this slightly smaller. Let's see how that looks. I'm going to clear the guides for the moment. So I go up to View, Clear Guides. Okay, that's looking good for now. I'm going to change the line height on this as well. Instead of auto, I'm going to choose something maybe close to 36. That looks pretty good. Okay, and finally, I want to emulate the lines down here with the logos, and then I'll put design cultures and creativity right there. Okay, so if you click on the press and hold on the rectangle tool, you should see line tool. And if you don't, you can click on these 3 dots and that will give you the option for adding the line tool. So we're going to do that. We're going to change the fill to black. The weight we will bump up to, that looks pretty good. So maybe 11 or 12 will work. I'm going to pull out a couple of rulers right to the edge of my image, both edges of the image. So I've chosen the line tool here and I've pulled out these guides. So right underneath the word anniversary, I'm going to start by holding the shift button down to make sure that my line is straight. And then I click and hold and just drag all the way over and it should make a straight line. Okay, now I want to figure out exactly where the thirds are for this because I'm going to create small lines down. It doesn't help that the ruler is set up in pixels right now. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and shift that to inches. Okay, and then we are going to pull out our rulers now that we've got our inches to roughly where the thirds would be for this document. So I can kind of follow those. And then if I need to move one, I can do that with the move tool. So actually I'm closer to right there. Okay, and now I'm going to go ahead and zoom way in. Okay, so I've zoomed in and I've got these thirds laid out. I'm going to go ahead and grab a new line, and right where that guide is, I'm going to hold shift and then drag down, not all the way to the bottom of the page, but almost. And now I can actually duplicate this object. I'm going to choose V and hold the Option key down and then drag. Oh, you know what? I clicked on the wrong thing. Oh, let's try that again. Auto select is on. Okay. With my move tool, I can go ahead and hold Option and then drag, and it duplicates it. And if I hold shift, it should constrain that if you hold shift before you begin dragging. Oh, it didn't. So I've dragged it out. I have a duplicate. If I hold shift now, I can go ahead and drag it over, and it stays exactly where it's supposed to be in terms of its location on the page. Okay, I can go ahead and clear my guides now. And let me zoom out, double click on the hand, take a look at things. Okay, it's starting to come together. Last piece of text is I'm going to type in all caps. Oh, sorry, not all caps. Design, cultures, ampersand, creativity. And I don't have Helvetica on here on this Windows machine, so I'm going to choose its cousin Arial, and I'm going to make this gray. And maybe I want to choose a gray from the building, so I can, once I choose the color and I hover over the image, I can kind of pick any gray here on the image itself. And let's go ahead and bump up the size. Pull the letters closer together with this tracking, and maybe let me show you how to align and distribute things as well. So what I want to do here, let me go ahead and get rid of cultures and creativity. I'm going to show you a couple of techniques here that we can do when it comes to aligning and distributing. So I'm going to just click on a random part of the paper here, and I'm going to write cultures and then the ampersand. And then similarly, I'm going to just click again and type the word creativity. Design, cultures, and creativity. Okay, now if I hold shift down, I'm currently selected on the top layer, creativity. If I hold shift and then click on the bottom layer, it selects all three of these. At the very top of the page, I've got some alignment options. You can also go to layer, align, and I can choose left edges. Okay, that's great, but they are not distributed well. And the way that distribution works is it takes the topmost layer in terms of where it is on the page, not in the layers, but the highest object you've got, and then the lowest object you've got, and anything in the middle, it then staggers them out accordingly. So it won't work right now because creativity is right on top of design. So if I want to grab creativity and just kind of drag it down to where I think it should go, and now I'll again hold shift and select all of those. I can go up to layer, distribute, and I can try a couple of things. Usually vertically works well. Didn't quite work beautifully there. So let me try a different option, vertical centers. Bottom edges doesn't work as very well. And what we're seeing here is that based on where the top edges works great. So again, it depends on the shape of the object. Like it's got this Y that's hanging down, and that's really the only thing that's falling below the line height here. So I had to figure out exactly what worked for that. So I was able to align things, all objects along the same thing. And actually, now that I've got these three aligned, let me scroll down in my layers and then hold Control to also pick Design Shifts Your Perspective. And now I can align all of those left as well. So I can make sure those are perfectly aligned. It doesn't always work well with things like if I choose this 10 and then let me find the words year anniversary, and I'll hold Control and select that. Now I've got these two. If I wanted to align them center, it all of a sudden looks a little weird. It is actually literally aligned center, but it doesn't look good because it's aligning it with that little swoop of the one that's sticking out, the serifed part of the one. And so it's considering that as part of the whole font there. And so what I have to do instead is just align it visually rather than based on true centers here. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and pull in those logos that I had before. So let me go ahead and go up to File, Open. And I had those logos from our last one, our UMD logo and the DCC logo with tagline. And I'll go ahead and select that all and copy it. And let me go ahead and paste it. And I'm going to go Command T or Control T and shrink this down and move it to this corner here. Get it in sort of a rough position and hit Enter. And copy it. And paste it in, Command Control T to shrink it down to a roughly similar size. All right, now I'm going to put the website for the program down here. I'm just going to type dcc.umd.edu. That's going to be black as well. That's going to be small. And I'm going to use that font that I just installed called Junicode. Okay, and then I can select these three layers and maybe align their centers. That looks good. You can also align the bottom if you'd like to. And I can arrange these, make sure that actually maybe the University of Maryland logo is a little too large. I can shrink it down. Maybe it's not centered well. So we can play around with it. Okay, let's go ahead and save. Control S, Command S, and it's saving that file. Last thing I wanted to do was go ahead and put a frame around the image that I have here. So I'm going to go down to my image, the main photo that I've got, and I'm going to go ahead and apply one of the effects, and this is going to be a stroke. It will be black, and it will position inside is correct. And I'm just going to kind of start dragging. Oh, yes. You know what's happening here? There's a bunch of things actually missing within this. So that's not going to work because it's actually applying the stroke to the pieces of the photograph that are that have been cut out when I did that color range selection and removed those things. So this is not going to, the stroke actually isn't going to work for this. So I'm going to try a alternative approach to this. I'm going to click and hold on the line. I'm going to choose a rectangle tool. And I'm going to drag out a rectangle across the whole of this picture. I'm going to drop the fill to 0 and then go ahead and apply the stroke to that rectangle on the inside. And let's see if that works. Yes, great. Okay, and a stroke around 60, position inside, blend mode is normal, opacity is 100. That looks great. Okay, so I've created a frame for that as well. All right, so this looks good for now. So here's one option that we can do. I can go ahead and turn this in. Oh, you know what? The rectangle is not quite aligned up at the top. Looks like some of the image is peeking through. I'm gonna hold shift to, again, just drag it up slightly. Okay, so you could turn this in, and this could be a great project. I'm gonna show you also some other options for filters that we could apply to this as well, and give you a sense of some things that we could do just to give it a different look if you decided you wanted to create a different kind of picture, different kind of poster for this based on kind of the available effects that you can use. Within Photoshop, there are a range of effects that you can apply to your photographs to give them a unique look, to fit certain genres of graphic design, or to just transform your photos into sort of fantasy styles or comic book styles. And there's just this wide range of effects that you can apply to these. And I'm going to show you a couple of them right now. The first thing I want to do is use what's often used when we're creating a comic book style. The first one is to create a color halftone, and I'm going to apply it to the very background image here, this textured paper. So what I'm going to do is go up to filter. So I've selected on that layer, and then I go filter, and I'm going to go to pixelate, and then choose color halftone. I'm going to change all of the channels to a 45-degree angle here. And I'm going to just test this out, a max radius 8. Let's see what that looks like. Okay, and let me zoom in here. So it looks a bit like that. So the pixels actually aren't quite large enough for what I want. So I'm going to go ahead and undo that. Let's try it again. Filter, pixelate, color halftone. Let me try a radius of 12 pixels. Let's see if that kind of fits that. That's a little bit better. That's more what I was looking for. So this is great. You can actually apply it to photographs as well if you wanted to. Let me show you what the main photo would look like with a similar kind of color halftone. So one thing you could do here is I can desaturate it. I can go up to image adjustments, desaturate, which creates a black and white. And again, maybe because I've desaturated, I need to really bump up the contrast. And then I can go up to filter, pixelate, color halftone, and let's try it with that 12 as well, just to see what it looks like. So now I've got that comic book style look. I'm going to go ahead and undo those changes here. I'm going to keep the color halftone on the background just to create a different kind of texture for the image. For the main image itself, what I want to do is colorize it and give it kind of a glitchy blur look. So I'm going to colorize this to be kind of a yellow to match maybe this University of Maryland yellow down here. And so what I'm going to do for that is image adjustments, and then hue, saturation. And then I'm going to click this button that says colorize. And I'm going to scroll the hue until I kind of find a good gold kind of color. And actually I'll need more saturation to figure out exactly where that gold is located. Okay, so I've colorized it, and you can colorize any images you have. And again, if it, after colorization, if it needs some adjustment to the contrast, you may need to do some of that to your brightness, to your contrast, just to make sure that the image still pops when you're done with it. Okay, I'm going to create a filter here that is called wind. And this kind of creates a glitchy sort of look. I can do a stagger from the right to the left, and it creates that glitch. I'm going to go ahead and click OK, and it will apply to that. Okay, so that filter has loaded, and you can zoom in to see some of the effects that it has. It creates kind of a glitch look, which is what I was going for, and it pulls things over to the right side, which I'm going to actually get rid of. And I don't mind it over here on the left. I think it looks interesting, and you can kind of see some of that color halftone coming through. I'm going to choose the marquee tool, shortcut M, which is a square there with the marching ants. And I'm going to actually go ahead and drag that over all the way to the edge of the stroke here, because I want to delete this. And then I'm just going to go Control X or Command X to get rid of that, just to clean it up slightly. Okay, what I would recommend you do as well is to experiment with a lot of these filters, apply them to your photographs just to see what some of the effects are as well. And you can see what sort of range of options there are for you. One last thing I'm going to show you is something called blend modes as well. So go ahead and go up to File, Open, and you're going to pull in one last image. Okay, I'm going to go into my workshops folder and go ahead and find the file called Canvas 2. And just to remind you how you can port things over, we've been doing Control or Command A to select all. The other option is to right click on the layer itself and to duplicate the layer over to my Shifting Perspectives Workshop.psd. And this pulls this canvas. So if you wanted your photograph to look more like a work of art that was on canvas, for example, you can pull in a piece of canvas like this. I'm going to go ahead and transform it, holding Shift to make sure the proportions don't stay aligned with the original document. And I'm going to cover up my image here and hit Enter. And we're going to do what's called a blend mode. And blend modes work when you have something on top of an image and what you're doing is creating a blend between them. And the blend modes range based on color or saturation, hue, lighter, darker, blending them completely. And that is done in the layers palette here. So right now I'm selected on the background, which I'm going to call canvas. So I remember what it is. And right here where it says normal is where your blend modes happen. And you just open them up and I can begin selecting different options. And you can see some of them have interesting effects. And some of them completely wipe out my photograph. And I usually just scroll through. I don't always know exactly what sort of effect the blend mode will have on the image, but you can kind of see that some of these have some great effects and some of them not so much. So I'm going to go up to multiply and use that one. And I'm going to drop the opacity of my canvas down a bit. It's a little harsh. I want it to be a little more subtle, and I'll pull that. And with opacity, you can always just hit number buttons and that will change. So I've clicked away from it, and now if I hit 5, it changes the opacity to 50%, or if I hit 8, it changes to 80. I'm interested maybe in about 40%, 30% saturation. Let's zoom in on that, and you can kind of see that it creates a bit of texture on top of that photograph. So blend modes are really great for creating some effects as well. Okay, so I'm done with my poster here. I'm going to save it, but then I'm going to also go up to File, Save As. Oh, it's still in the process of saving. File, Save As to my computer or to your cloud. I am in Workshop Day here. Shifting Perspectives Workshop. I'm going to change the format to JPEG. I'm going to save it as highest quality option. If you're not seeing the quality option and you're imagining that you're saving it as a JPEG, something went wrong. You're not actually saving it as JPEG. You always need to see this quality option and with this slider that allows you to scale the quality. We're doing quality of maximum, and then I click OK, and that's what you're going to upload today to Canvas, to Elms. Under Workshop Files, you'll upload this and the previous poster workshop that we did on day one, upload those to show that you followed along. And I wish you the best of luck with your own projects and your own posters. I'm looking forward to the work that you'll produce for this assignment. All right, good luck.